When preparing to etch your aluminum lithoplate, please refer to the etching charts above the shelf with the gum and the tapeum mixtures on it. There is one specifically for crayons, and there is another chart specifically for Tusche washes. To complete the first etch on my aluminum lithoplate with Tusche drawing, I want some talc. I'm going to need gum arabic, a mixture of tapeum and gum, two pieces of cheesecloth that are sort of balled up but with a smooth outer layer so it looks a little bit like a muffin top, and a piece of paper towel. So I'm going to start by painting or brushing the talc onto the plate over my drawing material. And what that should do is it should stick to the drawing material a little bit and secure it to the plate so it doesn't move around quite as much. And I want to just gently sort of pat that down with the paper towel, so that I'm making sure that it's getting embedded in the drawing material a little bit. And then I can take that excess and just brush it off back into the box off the edge of the counter. And then I want to use the etching chart to decide on my etching strength. So when I look at my application, it's mostly light with some medium heavy Tusche application. So that, for the brand of Tusche that I was using, which is the Stones H2O, my etch would be pure gum for my light areas, and then 1/3 to 1/2 tapeum to gum for my dark areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to apply straight gum to the whole plate, so that way I'm etching the whole thing, and then I'm going to take a little bit of this and a brush, and I'll paint it into those specific dark areas and let it sit like that to etch. So because of the size of this plate, I want about 1/2 ounce of straight gum. And again, I'm going to apply this to the whole surface, but starting on the borders, on the edges. I want to make sure I'm wearing gloves so that my hands aren't stinky like gum is. So gum is water soluble, which means I could clean it up and wipe it up with water and a sponge, which is what I need to do to the countertop when I'm done. And I'm just going to kind of agitate this over the whole plate. And then what I'll do is I'll apply what's called a spot etch, which means that I'm going to paint it in specific spots or specific areas. And so for that, I'm going to use the 50/50 tapeum and gum. I'm going to put a little bit of that in my measuring cup, and then I'll just use a brush to apply that where I need it, so in my darkest areas. And I want to be careful because I don't want to apply this to my lightest areas because it might burn it out and I'll lose any of the sort of Tusche wash kind of effects that have happened when the Tusche dried. So that's called reticulation, when your Tusche dries and you get kind of a almost like a pattern, like when mud dries after a hard rain. And I want to do the spot etch because if I don't, those darker areas are going to print just pretty much a solid black. Whereas if I etch them a little bit hotter with a little bit more tapeum to gum ratio, I should get some of the, like I said, like I mentioned before, in the lighter areas, some of the reticulation and edges of my brush strokes, which can give you a pretty cool effect. And I'll let that sit for about 1 minute to 2 minutes. After letting the gum and tapeum etch the plate for about 1 minute or 2, I'm ready to wipe off the gum. So I'm going to use one cheesecloth to get the excess amount off. Just kind of wipe most of it up. And I can get the counter a little bit with that as well, so there's not a bunch smearing around on the back of my plate. And then I'll use the second cheesecloth and do kind of a circular wax on, wax off motion and just buff it into the plate. And you can see a little bit of the drawing material comes off in the gum, and that's okay. Would be worse if we hadn't talked the plate. I want a nice thin film of gum and tapetum left on the plate. That'll make my washout for my second etch go much, much faster. I want to check the back of the plate. If there's any gum on there, I don't need to clean it, but I just want to make sure it's not beaded up, because that'll affect how the plate rolls up later.